Let me just get one thing on my computer set up. Bear with me. I'm dealing with very outdated equipment here. All right. All right, let me know. Let me know in the comment section if you can hear me or see me okay. And I will get this going. Why am I showing commercials? Okay. I can see me here. All right. I think we're good. Just wait for hi. Homestead Family, Idaho. Yes. Homestead Family, Idaho. She's always here. I might be having to order some coffee here pretty soon. So, because I ran out while trying to set up this live stream. So, let me just put a call in for some coffee real quick. Copy leader to identify Baker team. I need some coffee. Over. Anyways, I'll get this check. I'll get the live stream. Coming right up. I'll get this live stream going as soon as I get a 5x5 in the chat. Just making sure you guys can hear me. It's the first thing I gotta, first order of business. So just waiting for confirmation from anyone. Hello from Southwest Idaho, Stan Grenfell. Welcome. All right, so can you guys hear me? Yay or nay? 5x5. Okay, that's what I was waiting for. Thank you, thank you. All right, well, welcome to the live stream. This is kind of, I usually do my live streams on Friday. But since it is my 1 year anniversary today for my channel, I thought I'd just go ahead and put together a quick live stream. And just kind of let everybody know how grateful I am for all of you who have subscribed and been watching my channel and following my channel. It's been one hell of a ride. And as you guys know, some of you know, this is kind of where it all started, in this room. My first video was on this pantry. And so I've done like a few more videos on this pantry since then, but this is kind of the one that got it all started. And it was a spur of the moment thing. I wasn't planning on doing a YouTube channel. I was just like bored one night and thought, I should just do a video. Because actually, it was like years ago, I was thinking of doing a YouTube channel. I wish I had jumped on it back then. This was like in 2015. And I started it. I started the process, and then I just got so busy and lost interest in it. So anyways, here I'm back. And it's been good. This has been one hell of a ride. So appreciate everybody, all my subscribers and all of those of you out there who supported me this last year. It's been amazing. So I don't have a lot to talk about tonight. I did kind of just put some basic notes down, but it is hot here. I'll tell you that. Gosh, we're experiencing some like major heat waves here in North Idaho, like up to 100 degrees and up. And thankfully, right now, the project that I'm working on, I'm doing, as those of you know, I'm a painting contractor. And so right now, I actually have a commercial job going on. And most of it is that the time I'm putting into it is an off hour. So it's nice because I can kind of skip the heat. And so that's nice. But I was like outside washing this building until like 10 o'clock last night. So it's kind of interesting. The night job, it's good right now because I can work while it's cool, but I don't really like working that late at night. It's just kind of weird, but you do what you got to do. So, um, um, yeah. So other than that, I just been kind of doing when I'm not working. I'm just kind of doing projects around the house, keeping that going. Turkey season is about to start, so that's pretty exciting. Or the fall turkey season. So I'm looking forward to getting my to getting a turkey because I didn't, in spring I get my Ida or my turkey tag in spring, but I almost never get a turkey in spring. They're just really difficult to get in the spring. I mean, they take off like pretty high up in the hills, and two, I'm just too busy in the spring. That's kind of when my season kicks off. So, but yeah, tonight, like I said, I'm drinking some Pete's coffee tonight, so got the good stuff tonight. And Miss Idaho Prepper is going to be coming down here pretty soon and replenishing this cup to keep me going here. But fortunately for me, like I said, I'm working this night job, so I don't have to get up early. So coffee right now is okay. Um, but yeah, like I said, I just got a lot of projects to still do around the house as winter's coming up, and one of them is I got to get our chicken coop insulated. So it was something that I've thought about doing each year, and I always kind of I just didn't. Yeah, I decided against it. But last year it got pretty cold. I mean, we get some pretty low temps in the winter, and the chickens are fine. The kind of chickens we have are, hey, thank you. The chickens we have are pretty hardy birds, so they do really well in the winter. So it's not really from that standpoint that I'm concerned about keeping them warm from freezing to death or something. But it's just one of those things you kind of if they're not so cold, they are going to they're going to produce eggs a little bit better. If they're the colder they are, the less eggs they're going to produce. So it's just something that's on my to-do list. But all right, here she is. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, that's she got the right cup. um yeah, my wife has a channel if you guys want to check it out. It's called Homestead Family Idaho. So she does kind of like some like homesteading, more related to homesteading and like homeschooling and stuff like that. So it's a good channel if you guys are interested to check her out over at Homestead Family Idaho. Um, but, where's see? I'm looking back on my notes here. Yeah, I still got to build a fence to keep the chickens out of our yard. I got one of the main things I got to do is block off all the entry points because we've just been dealing with mice. That's just like this battle, this never-ending battle of mice and men here at our house. They just keep finding ways in, and it wasn't an issue when I first built this pantry. I had observed some possible entry points that mice could get in here, and I took care of it. And we didn't have any mice issues in this pantry for like the first year. It was like no mice activity whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, this last year, they found a way in. I think they're probably coming in through the doors or something. But it's just so now I did as much as I could, but they're still getting in here. So now I'm kind of resorted to like putting a lot of our dry food, the stuff that they tend to go after, in these plastic tubs. So that's pretty much how I've remedied that for now. But it's just like never ending. I've tried everything. I mean, obviously I set up a lot of mouse traps and caught a lot of mice that way. But I tried like every trap. I've sprayed mint. I've done, bought expensive mouse deterrent. I've used the plugins that are supposed to send off like frequencies and keep mice away. And, with any of those things, it'll work for a short period of time and then it just stops working. So pretty much the best thing you can do is just keep food, just keep the food as secure as you possibly can. Just keep, starve them out essentially, um, and block off the entry points as best you can. So I know that there's a few entry points underneath the house, which sucks. I got to go in. I was under there for like a week, a couple weeks back, trying to reroute the dryer system for our dryer, and I noticed a few spots. So as much as it sucks crawling around under our house, I got to do it, and I got to get under there and close off those access points. And then, of course, I still have firewood I got to do, and yeah, and my ATV just broke down, so I got to go take that in. But anyways, yeah, I hope you guys are all doing the same. You're all preparing for 2024 because this is gonna be an insane one. I think just on the election alone, this is just gonna be crazy. Right now, it seems really calm. It's really weird to see how um, when you're just kind of like tapped into what's going on. And I'm not talking about just like on the news, but I tend to try and observe things that are outside of what's being reported on. um, and you can always kind of get a sense of it just depending on the censorship is kind of unusual. So obviously, as most of you know, we're under like a lot of censorship as a country right now, and there's just a lot of people such as myself. I mean, I don't really go into the politics that much just because I know it's just too difficult to talk about. I mean, I'm going to be using so many euphemisms and being so vague and having to curtail my message to the point where I just don't even think I'll be able to communicate anything uh, and get my views across at all. So for that reason alone, I stay away from anything political. It's just too tricky to talk about on these type of platforms that just scrutinize so much. So, but I have noticed that there has been for whatever reason, a lot of people have been speculating and saying that it's due to what I'm talking about is there's kind of been like a little bit of a lift on the censorship, because I remember when we went through the whole COVID thing, you couldn't even say COVID. You couldn't even say the word COVID. And everybody was just using these little, I don't even think you could say, well, what I don't even think you could. We'll see how much I can say by saying it, because they never tell you. They don't. It's not like YouTube gives us a list of things to not talk about. We just have to like basically talk about it and wait to see if it's they pass it or not. So, but I think most of us witnessed that during the 2020, 2021, during the COVID years. How like if you even mention the word, there'd be like disclaimers immediately, and it's still like that to an extent, for sure. You see it a lot. You see it a lot like on Instagram and stuff, but they're allowing the stuff to go through. I mean, there will be a disclaimer, and you have to like whatever do the little click to proceed. But hey, at least it's still, there's still stuff up or in that subject matter that's still available. Obviously, it's not where it should be, but it is still there. So like I always say, I mean, this is probably just in that regards, the amount of information that we have access to is probably what makes this period in time the most unique period of time in like throughout world history. I don't think that people have ever had, the ability to access not only just information, but different narratives, and people who like just people who would have never had the opportunity to have a voice to speak to a huge range of people have that opportunity now. And that in itself is changing our country so quickly, um, and just totally reshaping it. And for the better, I think. It's waking people up. It's like they say, I mean, that's the truth will set us free, So, and it's the reason why our founding fathers made, the First Amendment freedom of speech, because they realize it's the most powerful thing that we have as a people, is the ability to communicate honestly. So it's huge, and I don't think enough emphasis gets put on it. So take advantage of this time. Research as much as you can. Realize that there are going to be a lot of detours. There's going to be a lot of distractions. I mean, that the people who have had control over the narrative in this country are in total like damage control. So they're setting up secondary, tertiary, you know, um, layers of information to try to detour the people who are seeking, because they know, like, Americans are like looking for answers. We're looking for truth, because we know, like, especially now, we're seeing things, and the people who have been controlling things, you can tell that they're panicking, and they've totally lost their edge in terms of their propaganda. It's just not selling anymore. People are just not buying into it, and they're starting to go for alternative information. And what's crazy is that they are, and not a lot of people talk about this, but a lot of the alternative messages have been co-opted. So don't doubt for a second that, like, the people who've had control aren't going to go and try to, like, set up fake alternatives, so that you think that you're getting real, raw, uncensored information, but you're just back on the reservation again. So be wary of that. I mean, I think that the people who've had control over this message, they're very, it's like they would say in recovery and AA, they say very cunning, baffling, powerful. And that's what they are. It's very cunning, it's very baffling what they do. And if you're not wary of it, you're going to get, you're going to end up on their detour, and then you'll miss it. You'll miss this boat. The boat being access to info. So anyways, didn't plan on going on that rant, but that just ties into, just getting prepared for the winter, stockpiling food. I mean, I don't know, pretty much the same things that were issues last year and the year before that, as far as like food shortages go, are still pretty much the same issues. I'm not seeing, I mean, I don't know about you guys, you let me know in the chat. I'm not seeing a whole lot of food shortages. But something to keep in mind too, and somebody had mentioned this the other day on a podcast I was listening to, and it's something, it's like we said, it's like so much information, so much has taken place, like so many things have taken place in the last 2 or 3 years. It's impossible. I mean, it's really easy to forget what we've already experienced. So as far as the food shortages go, I mean, I just want to remind you that, because we all witnessed this, is that when we were going through that first wave of shortages, when they were, when everybody was hoarding, was like baby formula and like toilet paper and everything, those shortages. Remember when they were going into the Walmarts, they're going to a lot of these stores, the ones that could be open, and they were shortening up the shelves. Like what were they were kind of like shortening up the building, like the amount of space, and then spreading the shelves out more to kind of create the illusion that there was more food, and then bringing a lot of the food from the back up to the front, and just kind of giving it the appearance that there was food and there wasn't shortages. So I think that's still going on, and we've just kind of gotten accustomed to it. So, be wary of that. There might be food shortages, and at the same time, you have these stores that are working diligently to try to make you not see it. So, and we had proof of that the last few years. So, but like I said, I mean, I just did a big food run because we were getting really low on some of our staple food. So I just did a big food run to Costco and Walmart and picked up a bunch of stuff. And I don't know, I didn't really notice too much. I know the prices are still pretty high. The prices have come down on some things. Um, and I still find pretty good deals on stuff. One of the things that kind of concerns me with the food situation with the stores is where the food's coming from. I'm not gonna go too into detail, but it does concern me where this food is coming from, because a lot of people were mentioning that there were a lot of places where we were sourcing our eggs and our chicken, a lot of food from our grain, and those places got destroyed mysteriously. And what replaced them, I don't know. And the fact that it seemed to the point, I mean, that it was like deliberate. So, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little concerned that maybe something has changed in the food. It worries me a little bit that there was this huge, um, there was this huge drop off in the amount of food production, and then all of a sudden it kind of came back. Where people are saying, "Oh, there's no makers," and then all of a sudden a bunch of food came back. So it is a little concerning. Makes you wonder what's in the food now, if they did anything differently. So I don't want to speculate more on that. I mean, all I'm saying is that it's concerning. And my wife and I talk about this stuff all the time, and I just say, I mean, you can sit there and you can buy organic food, and you can you can buy all the natural stuff and do all your due diligence and read the back of all your packages and foods. But at the end of the day, you just don't know. You just don't know what's in there. You don't know how it's being manufactured or anything. And most people who are like, if you're really tapped into your industry, everybody can attest to this, is that because almost every industry has its own line of like environmentally friendly whatever, or healthy whatever. Every industry, because it's a market. The whole clean and organic and eco-friendly version of things is like a big market, and so every industry is going to tap into that. So for instance, my industry, painting, like, I can tell you that a lot of these products that they market towards, like, where they have the zero VOC paints, or just latex paints in general, when they went from oil base, solvent based paints, and they were kind of doing that push, like especially in California, you can't even get anything. I don't think you can get anything solvent based. It's just pure latex. But they're making this shift from that, to this is the safer option. It's not safer. It makes you feel safer, and really at the end of the day, it's nothing more than the companies just having to change the writing and the verbiage on the back of the cans. And so it's just a big grift, is really what it is. So, not to like try to instill this paranoia, but you shouldn't assume, if you're trying to be, I mean, I would say if you're really trying to be healthy and you're trying to stay away from foods that might be harmful, do your best to just create that food on your own. Start learning how to make this food on your own. If you have the ability to have chickens and have a garden, do it, you know, and start learning it. Start out, you know, you don't have to go out and buy 20, 30 chickens right off the bat, or, you know, try to, you know, get like a huge, like, um, acre sized lot of gardening. Just start small with, like, do a couple vegetables in some pots in your backyard. Start out with like 5 chickens and just learn the process. Get started that way. And as you get more comfortable with it, you know, expand out, and then you can decide at a certain point, it's like, gosh, you'll start becoming so efficient at it and so comfortable with it that eventually you'll want to start considering just doing it as like your primary food source. So that, I know that's our goal. My wife and I will always talk about, you know, getting to a point where we are fully self-sustainable food wise, especially to where all of our food, like especially our main food, I mean, obviously there's some stuff that we're never going to be able to grow, like bananas and stuff, but you know, or like create our own sugar, stuff like that. But you'd be surprised how much stuff you can come up with. I mean, if you're really committed to it, you could you could create your own sweeteners if you're just doing if you're raising bees. You know, the honey can act as a sweetener for just about anything. And you know, your chickens, I mean, that's pretty much mostly what we eat is just chicken and fish, and that stuff can easily be farmed, you know, yourself. So just some thoughts, you know, and that is definitely a dream. Some at some point we'll get there, you know, where we're just at least the bulk of what of our diet is comprised of food that we've either farmed ourselves and or grown ourselves. So that is part of the goal, part of the prepping goal. So yeah, like I said, I mean, I hope you're doing all this stuff as well, because it is crazy. Like I said, I don't want to go too much into the politics stuff. I mean, the stuff that's surrounding the elections is like completely insane because I tell you, it's like what it's doing is it's putting people in a position. It's like somebody said, I mean, if people don't have recourse to fix their problems, they look for other recourses. That's what's going to, I mean, that's what's happening. I'm not saying that that's what I agree with or whatever, but I'm saying if people can't talk, you know, then they scream. If they can't scream, then they do other things. And that's just the nature of things, and it's the nature of, you know, history. And that's kind of what it seems like we're being pushed to in a nation is just, you know, we're doing everything in our power to try to resolve our differences democratically, and you know, and through the process. But if the process isn't, you know, if the process is corrupt, if the process is like not allowing you to win, I mean, then you know, what do you? It's like, what are people supposed to do? So that's it's just it's setting a really bad precedent, and people are seeing it, you know, and that's what ends up happening is people start to lose. You know, the country starts to lose its legitimacy. The authority starts to lose its legitimacy, and so it just becomes like a huge issue. Somebody trying to come in. So, yeah, I mean, scary things on the horizon there for sure. We already went over the censorship stuff. I know if you guys ever follow Wrangler Star, I know Wrangler Star has been in some like heat lately over something he said. So I'll try to keep an eye on the comments. You guys want to get into that, but I don't even know what he said. I guess there was a couple of live streams that he put out that were, you know, where he was really testing the lines. And I know because he's been putting out some like shorts recently that have been like really pushing the envelope. Hello from Southwest England. How's it going? Yep, it's my people. I'm well, my family all comes from Wales, so targeted. I should probably read these comments instead of. I have this tendency. I see the comment on the screen, and I want to start reading it like to myself, like as if I'm not talking to people here. Um, so I'm just gonna go ahead and read a couple comments before I get back into this. But we were talking about the Wrangler Star thing, and and so he's just gotten in some heat. I'm not even sure it was something that he may have said during a live stream, but I have noticed that I watch him sometimes. You know, he's more kind of into the I don't know, like home. What would you call it? What does he call himself? The professional homeowner. So he's like into things like that. Not totally my what I'm into, but I do watch him from time to time, and I've noticed that like some of his shorts have been definitely, uh, here he's just kind of instigating certain things, just kind of like off the cuff innuendos, so to speak, about I don't know a possible like insurrection of some sort. So he's always kind of seems to be insinuating that stuff and like how to prepare yourself or engage in stuff like that. So like I've seen some like shorts that he's put out where I'm like, whoa, man, like that's I'm like, you're just asking for a raid with that kind of with that kind of talk. So he's got to be careful, you know. I mean, there's obviously subject matter that we want to try to talk about, but anything where it starts going into like the territory of violence and stuff, as just you getting sketchy. You're just asking for it, even in like a legitimate world. And not to say that he's doing anything wrong, but he's definitely testing the waters for sure. So I guess he went through a scare where somebody in law enforcement that he knew like let him know that he was in danger, and they kind of left it at that. It was like an open-ended thing, and I'm not really sure exactly what that meant, like danger from people or danger from the government or what. But anyways, he kind of panicked. He panicked over it and it ended up taking down a bunch of his videos. And then he recanted, and then he kind of felt like, well, that was stupid. That was kind of a cowardly move. I shouldn't have probably done that. So, and then he ended up uh, making all those videos public again. So we'll see what happens. I guess he addressed it on today's live show, but I just didn't really have a chance to watch it yet. Yeah, there was a Rolling Stones article about him that I guess got it started because he started going into he just started going into some controversial, I guess, and you call it controversial subject, but just basically talking about, you know, like like marital roles. I mean, pretty milk toast stuff as far as I'm concerned. But you know, this modern age that we live in, it's like trying to, you know, saying that like men and women might have different roles in society is like the worst thing you could imply. So like pretty lame stuff. But anyways, he made himself a target for the usual suspects, and they wrote a bad article about him in Rolling Stones, just making him look a lot worse than he actually is, and just implying a lot of things that aren't true. You know, the usual stuff like racist and all that garbage. But anyways, I'm just gonna read a couple of these comments real quick, and then I will get back into it. I don't know if I'm gonna do a very long live show tonight. And I always say that, and then it gets really long. It's probably because I'm pounding coffee. It just keeps me talking. So, PH Expat Prepper. Let me see if I can hold on. Let me see if I can scroll up because I missed a lot of the comments here tonight. Wow, there's a lot of comments. That's good. I'm glad you're all joining me for the live stream. This is actually usually a little more than I get on Saturday nights, but maybe I should decide to start bringing I don't know, doing my live streams during the week. because everybody, all the channels that do live streams, they all do them on Saturday. But actually, I actually enjoy doing them on Saturday nights. It's just kind of fun, gives me something to look forward to on the weekends. So, and of course, I usually do my live streams pretty late at night. I usually start them at like 10, 10:30, 11. So if you're up for late night prepping live streams, that's me. So XPH Expat Prepper. Well, first, actually, I'll start from the top. Samara Stevenson. Hello from North Idaho. Yes, we can hear you. Okay. Homestead Family Idaho. It says basically, congratulations. Lisette Rodriguez. I think I pronounced that right. Lisette. Hello from New Jersey. PH Expat Prepper. Congrats on the 1 year. Thank you. PH Expat Prepper. I'm going to give you an abbreviation. Call you Expat Prepper. To-do lists. They never end for preppers. That's for sure. Oh, there's a long name. Deadman. SCP Deadman from American Zombie Apocalypse. That's a mouthful. Hello. Teresa Buchanan. Hello. Congratulations on your 1 year anniversary. Thank you so much. I'm functioning on this laptop that's pretty old. Probably like 15 years old or more. I can't even. There we go. Okay. No, that's not it. Sorry, bear with me here. I'm almost to the end of the comments. This isn't moving. Sorry, everybody. I'm trying to read these comments, and my ability to scroll down the list is not working. I want to try to get to everybody here, so. Okay, well, anyways, I've gone as far up the list as I can, but Expat Prepper says, I too have been eating more than normal from the pantry due to prices still stacking when I find sales. He says, wonder if related to the can shortages. Here in the PH now, most canned food actually is coming in pouches now. Really? That's crazy. I agree. We live in a farming town and I freeze dry as much as I can. That's awesome. Yeah, I wish a neighbor down the street has a freeze dryer, but they said we could use it, but Expat Prepper says no shortages, no price increases, yes. Homestead Family Idaho says they also say a natural sweetener is safe, and then you later find out it's not. Other ingredients as well. I wish there was a way I could. Plus, I'm not used to using a laptop, so this isn't working very well. Yeah, I bought some maple. Expat Prepper says, yeah, I bought some maple syrup. It sure has gotten expensive. Not sure, but the Canada fires might make it more expensive. Yeah. I know I was reading something today about how sriracha is like, for some reason, sriracha is like really hard to find. And it was funny because it wasn't showing up on our shelves here in Idaho. And I thought, like, I'm like, I wonder if it's like some, like, some woke company and they just refusing to send any of their product to Idaho because of, like, the stereotype of Idaho. We all know what that stereotype is. But no, it just turns out they're actually just in short supply of it. And the reason I was wondering that is because you could still order it online. So I would like loved having, I eat like my eggs with sriracha every morning, and then we ran out and I couldn't find it, and I ended up getting these alternatives, and they were like terrible. They're just not even close to the same. So I ended up ordering some sriracha, but it was really expensive. So now I'm just on this like never-ending search for like the best like hot sauce to go with my egg. So my wife's like going insane because our refrigerator is just becoming packed full of hot sauce. I just can't seem to find the right one. Um, but yeah, I did a pretty good size run the other day. And got a lot of stuff. So, uh, sorry, I'm still trying to get to these comments. Ugh. See, every time I hit this thing, it either goes up too high or too fast, and I miss with everything's. I don't know. Expat Prepper says here in PH now. Okay, I already read that part. They also real maple syrup. What are you guys even talking about? Yeah, I bought some maple syrup. It sure has gotten expensive. Not sure, but the Canada fires made it more so expensive. That's a good point. We should stock up. Ha ha ha. On maple syrup, yeah, it's like $12 for a little bottle, though. The Forest, the Velociraptor says hello from the Southwest England. Hello. Sorry, I'm going slow. Expat Prepper says they problems with a big channel, you will get pushed around and targeted. I doubt if I will ever have to deal with that. Yeah, that's kind of my feeling too, but I don't know. You'd be surprised. Like, I always thought I was like a small fish, and I learned that lesson the hard way about 5 years ago. If you fit the bill, they will come after you. If you fit the profile, they will come after you. That's all I'll say. They took a lot of clips from various vids, put together a hit piece. Yeah, they did. So he made a lot of stuff members only. Oh, that's what he was doing. Living in the Philippines, I have to be extremely careful what I talk about. Really, I guess. So is YouTube interesting? So the government monitors YouTube in the Philippines, huh? Spencer Kilcrease. Hey everyone, congrats on the 1 year anniversary. Thank you so much. Midja preparedness 3-day weekends. I'm running to freeze dryers on my day off. Side hustle and lawn care around my home. Venison, beef, and whatever from the garden or local farmers. Your side hustle is lawn care around your home. Oh, around like in your neighborhood. I was like, you get paid for mowing your own lawn? That's funny. I can't read that. Guia de Armas. Influenced by American channels in other countries, here in Brazil, bushcraft and survivalist culture is growing. It really, that's cool. I seem to get a lot of comments from Brazil, actually. I'm curious as to why you think it's growing. I'd be interested to know. Brush Ape Outdoors. If you have an Asian market in town, they're usually stocked up with sriracha. Hong Fat here in the People's Socialist Republic of Portland, Oregon. Oh man, that's rough. Admin. Good morning from South Africa. South Africa, how are you guys doing? I think America is going the way of South Africa. Believe it or not, but I won't go into that. But I hope you are doing. I hope you are safe and doing well there in South Africa. I don't know if like how many people are kept up with the South Africa stuff, and especially I can't remember how long ago it was, like maybe 2 years ago, when all that chaos was going on, and people were like having to ship them supplies and firearms to protect themselves. The farmers there are just being attacked because the president is basically just straight up just straight up calling for like genocide on the Caucasian farmers, shall we say. It's pretty nuts. um Spencer Kilcrease, haha, you said my last name correct. Not many people do. Kilcrease, is that how you say it? Expat Prepper, UK, Brazil, Philippines, South Africa. Not a bad set of viewers. Yeah, I know, it's quite a diverse crowd I've put together. That's probably like one of the coolest things that came about with starting my YouTube channel, and it happened pretty quick because I remember like reading like that first month, because the first video I did was on my prepper pantry, and the people that were commenting were like all from all over the country, and like I mean all over the world, all over the globe, and from all different walks of life, like just people I never would have thought would be into prepping were were commenting and saying that's awesome. So yeah, it's been such a trip doing this channel, and just the ability. I mean, I don't take it for granted one bit. Trust me, I think about it all the time. Is this like the ability to communicate with so many people and for free? We don't even have to pay for this service. So say what you want about YouTube and a lot of these platforms. I mean, yeah, don't agree with the censorship and all of that, but still, like the ability to have like I can still communicate and say quite a bit of stuff on here, um, and I can do it for free. It's pretty huge, and not only that, but I get paid. I don't get paid a lot, but I mean, I get paid. Pretty, pretty major thing. Surprised more people don't take advantage of it. Um, But one of the things I definitely want to do on this channel here, like at some point, is do a collaboration. So there was a prepper that actually reached out to me on the last show. I don't know if he's in here. I can't remember your name, what your channel was, but you had mentioned doing a collaboration. It would probably I'd be into that because it kind of helped me flow a little bit better. Um, I mean, I think I actually, I mean, I can do these kind of platforms like okay, where I'm just talking and just thinking of stuff and just keep it flowing. But I'm much better with like with another person that we can kind of rap and shoot things back to each other. I think I would be a lot more entertaining and smooth in a platform like that where I have somebody to communicate with. So just having these comments here is like helping me kind of do that. So talk about the difference prepping on both sides of this rock we live on. Yeah. What is the best knife to get? You're new. You know what? I was actually gonna mention that in a video, but right now the knife that I'm using, if I can get it out, is this it's an EC What is this? I can't even remember. It's a, wait, what is this? It's a, yeah, it's the EC, I don't know, AUS 8, AUS 8 or something. Tiny little knife, super cheap. I was, I don't get expensive knives because I have a very bad habit about when I buy an expensive knife, I lose it. It just, it's every expensive knife I've ever bought, I've lost. Or it gets stolen or something. So I don't do expensive knives. I do kind of medium knives. Plus, I really thrash my knives. So I open up all my paint cans with my knives. This knife, I mean, look how thrashed it is. This knife I use to like scrape paint and like scrape caulking out of cracks. And the knife I was using that up until I just started using this one was the Spyderco Tenacious, and it was their cheaper model. It was like $50, but I've had that is a for the money. If you're just looking for like a good intermediate, like not cheap, but like relatively cheap, 50 $60 pocket knife, that Spyderco Tenacious is a hard one to beat. And I just busted the tip off of it, and I almost like busted it off, and I was like shocked that I didn't bust the tip off it earlier because I've been using it for years and it lasted years. But think about it, I open paint cans with the tip of the knife, I mean, all the time. So the fact that I never busted a tip off doing that like 10 times a day was pretty shocking. So that Spyderco Tenacious is a really good knife. It holds an edge. You can, all I have to do with these knives, I maybe sharpen them once a year, and then in between that, I just hone it. I just hone these knives, and that's enough to keep it going. But yeah, it's just the EC. I forget what they call it, what the actual model of this is, but you'll find them on Amazon. Just EC folding knife. I think that EC only makes like one folding knife actually. So not American. I think these are made in Taiwan. So, but those Spyderco ones I think were made in China. So if you're trying to stay away from China, I get it. But that is the one I was using. You want one that was made, if Taiwan isn't, if you're not upset with them, then get a Taiwan knife. Otherwise, you want American knife, you're paying $300, and I'm just like not willing to like lose a $300 knife is basically what it comes down to. So, all right, back to the comments. I have different knives for different purposes. Yeah. Prepper Book Club says, good evening. Good evening. Bluefoot Homestead. I started with 4 ducks. 1 year later, I had 200 chickens. Yeah, chickens are like crack. Not that I know what crack is like, but from what I hear, chickens are awesome. And I've heard some people say they're like crack. Bluefoot Homestead says, dialed back at lot now. Prepper Book Club says, I like Spyderco for folders and EC for fixed blades. Expat Prepper says, need to go. Nice live. Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for hanging out. You're one of my longtime supporters. You've been here for a while. So I appreciate your support. PH Expat Prepper has a channel, by the way, if you guys want to check his channel out. So he's in the Philippines. He's got some good stuff. Homestead Family Idaho says, good night. Oh, okay. Good night, Expat Prepper. Okay. Stan Grenfell, most of your buck knives are made in Idaho. Yeah, that's true. That was like my first knife was a buck knife. That's what I owned for years. I'm surprised there isn't one sitting here. Maybe I have one in here, but yeah, when my family and I would go camping, I remember it like very vividly. Like it was yesterday, like the first buck knife I got, traditional buck knife with the brown leather case. So awesome. I still have one, not the original one. That one I lost. Like I said, I've been losing knives since I was like, since I was young enough to have them, old enough to have them. And I remember where I lost. I was fishing in a stream, and I remember it just fell out of my. I didn't it was on my belt, and I didn't button the strap, and I like leaned over, and I just saw it go whoop, hit this log like, and then plunk, like plunk in the water, and I was like devastated, and I think I went back to our campground and I grabbed like my snorkel and mask and went back and just I dove in this water. It was just, I mean, like glacier waters. It was super cold, but I tried like hell to try to find that knife. Couldn't find it. So yeah, I've lost some like amazing knives. I had like a beautiful case knife. Lost that in a kayak crash. I was like being stupid. I was kayaking and um, I just turned when I shouldn't have and hit the current. It spun me over, and I had my knife in my kayak with me, and it fell out, gone. That was like $175 knife. Yeah, and then so no more expensive knives for me. Uh, Read some comments. Prepper Book Club. Hey, Midja. Mika's Outdoors or Micah's Outdoors. I've been watching this amazing channel since day one. Have you really? Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for your support, and thank you for your compliment. Appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't even know. My wife had reminded me that it was my 1 year. She's like, you know what today is? I'm like, trash day? I don't know. Our anniversary? No, it's your YouTube anniversary. Oh. So, yeah, um, I was going to put out a video. I actually was like, I was doing I was doing a get home bag video on this bag here. And I was doing it with my GoPro. Mainly, I mean, I wanted to get a video out. But I also wanted to get familiar with this GoPro camera that I just bought, because it's kind of a learning curve. I've been doing all these videos from my phone, which has actually been working out great. The only downside to doing stuff on your phone is one, calls come in, and it will interrupt whatever you're doing, kind of. To the video quality isn't quite as good, although I have an iPhone 14, and from the front camera it takes really good video, but with these live streams I actually have to do the videos from the front camera so that I can see myself, make sure that I'm in the shot. So I ended up getting a GoPro, and it allows me to take really good footage, like quality footage, and and I can kind of see myself, because it's like one of the most critical parts of like making any type of videos is you have to be able to like see yourself, because you need to make sure where you are in the frame at all times. You also have to know if it's still recording, so you need to be able to have access to all the information of the film while you're filming. So there's only like, so with the iPhone I can only do that when I'm looking at the screen camera, which isn't that good of a camera. So anyway, so I was doing I was practicing doing some videos on my GoPro, and it's a better picture, but I'm still figuring out the settings. Plus, once I do a video, I have to upload it to my phone, because my editing software on my phone is a lot easier to work with than the video editing software on my computer. Anyways, boring tech stuff, but Yep. So the next thing I'm going to add, once I figure out my phone situation, I mean my camera situation, then the next thing I'm going to be getting into is I got to get a better laptop, something that's newer. And then, so that's kind of like my goal is I just don't have a lot of time to do this stuff. I mean, I'm lucky if I have time to make a video, let alone having time to like sit there and learn editing software. It's just too much. Plus, I'm not even sure if that's like the route I want to go. You see a lot of these channels that are like where they just have really high quality production value. And it's fun. I mean, it's aesthetically fun to watch. You know, somebody that has good camera equipment, good editing software. They're just really, they're really talented with editing, and they got all the high quality stuff like microphones and everything. But the one thing I will say about those the channels that do that is you lose. I don't know about you, but like when I'm watching those channels where it's just like very coiffed and primped uh, videos, you lose a sense of like feel for the person. There's just some texture that gets lost in the over sensationalization of the video quality, I think. And with me, like one of the things I really wanted to focus on with this channel was like building like a strong sense of communication with my viewers, and just let like this is like the real deal. This is me. It's like raw, uncut, unfiltered. I'm not trying to be anything that I'm not. And you know hopefully people will see that and gravitate to it. So I'm not trying to get, I mean, obviously I want to be have a successful channel, but I don't think that that necessarily means like having really shiny glossy production necessarily. So really my goals have always just been like try to like formulate a sentence and make sure that you guys can hear it and the picture comes in okay. So hopefully I've achieved that, and believe it or not, like that's a lot harder than it sounds. You'd be surprised. So yeah, I pretty much reached the end of my notes there. I mean, I was just talking about the censorship thing, and the last thing I put down was the stuff with Wrangler Star. So I didn't really plan on talking about much more than that. Kind of went over my to-do stuff, why I think it's important that we need to start putting our food and stuff together now. But yeah, I mean, take advantage of the supplies while you can. I don't know how your like the ammo situation is in your neck of the woods. Those of you what the ammo situation is like where you are, let me know in the comment section. It's crazy. I still have friends in California, and it's like every time we talk about anything that's like 2A related, I'm just like shocked at like still some of the stuff that's going on. Like, whoa, that wasn't going on when I was there. I can't believe that. Like, that's honestly like having I have friends there that I actually have a friend there that he has a concealed carry permit because Stan Grenfell says thank you and congratulations on your first year. Thank you. Bluefoot Homestead says sriracha shorts are due to droughts on pepper farms. Oh, interesting. Huh. It must be a special type of pepper that they use then, because there's still a lot of sriracha, like different types of sriracha, but maybe it's just something that's unique to the sriracha that is, and I'm not sure what it's called, but the sriracha that most people are familiar with in Mexico, I think. So So yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys are doing for your prepping. You know, one of the things I just found at Walmart were these little snack packs. So these are like super cheap, and there was actually two versions of these, but they're basically it's just a chicken salad kit. So it's just a little can of chicken salad that's like pre-made chicken salad, and then some crackers, and then there's another one, and this was like a dollar. It's like under $2, like a dollar. I don't know, $1.50 or something for this little kit. But I thought this is like the perfect little, like kind of like an MRE type of thing that you can have. But there was another kit which I got. I don't know where I put it, but it comes so it's the chicken salad, crackers, and then there's a cookie and a fruit cup. So obviously it's a little bit bigger, but I just thought it was cool that they're actually making these things, and it's no refrigeration. That's the thing. What makes it cool is that they're not. There's no refrigeration necessary, so you can just keep these in your bug out bag or whatever. So keep an eye out for them. You probably order them online, I'm sure, but I just found them at Walmart. So, and they're super cheap, so you can get a couple of them. Yeah, so I still pretty much prep the same way I did when I started, which is just a little bit at a time. I mean, there was one year where I really um, where I may have splurged a little bit, like when I was doing the bucket. So all these buckets that you see, I'd say like at least 75% of them are like the buckets that I started prepping. Like I started out with prepping back in 2011. So I actually have food on these shelves in these buckets from 2011. Um, that I'm sure is still good. I've opened up some of them, like some of the rice is fine, and there were some like mistakes I made when I first started, but yeah, all the most of the stuff in there is fine. I I can't read Spanish, so I'm not even going to attempt that. But hello there, Armus Tacticus, Zombies Apocalypse. From Argentina, is that where you're from? Very cool. If I was going to go anywhere in South America, that's where I'd go. Argentina. You have some beautiful scenery there. Um, Stan Grenfell says, "Luckily, I started reloading a dozen years ago or so." Midja Preparedness says, "Bioengineered." Ivan SF, saludos a todos. I'm not going to even attempt to read Spanish. Uh, maybe you think I'm Latino or something. I get that a lot, but if you guys are curious of what my ethnic background is, I'm mostly Welsh, English, Irish, German, and my dark features come from like a Portuguese background. So I'm like an eighth Portuguese. And nobody in my family looks like me. I'm like the only one that came out looking like Joey Tribbiani from, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people just think I'm Italian. But nope, just like I'm just an eighth Portuguese. Hola Jose, good to see you prepping. Yeah, my sister always calls me Jose. They're like, "Hey, is the Mexican in the family?" I'm like, "Not Mexican." It's because I think it's because I just have like the dark features and like a round face, and then I'm a painter, so it's like, oh, you must be a Mexican. I'm like, close. I guess I'm like 90% European and like 10% Portuguese. So midget preparedness. Are you in Argentina or is that Ivan SF? I met some like really amazing people from Argentina. I did a job for some people from Argentina, and they owned a restaurant in the area I was living in, and that specialized in like this special type of like grass fed beef, and it was like amazing. It was like the best steak I've ever eaten in my life. You're in Georgia. Midget preparedness. I'm in middle Georgia. The country or the state? Micah's Outdoors. How much was your tattoo? Just the one? Yeah, I did all my tattooing at a very early, crazy part of my life. But it was spent thousands of dollars on my tattoos. I'm like one of probably the few people who will tell you that I regret my tattoos, not in the sense like, oh my god, like, total regret, but if I could have done things differently, I wouldn't have done the tattoos. It makes things difficult now in later life. And I always want to say that to like younger people who are thinking about getting tattoos, like, because I heard it all the time before I got my tattoos. I wasn't like in talk. I was actually, I don't know. Probably shared this with people before on my channels, but I don't drink or do drugs. I used to a very long time ago, but way before tattoos started. It was like a very short period of my life, but I quit drinking and quit all drug use like at a very early age. Um, like well before I was even like legal, so to drink. But I quit drinking and doing drugs at a very early age, and then I was just kind of hanging out with people um, who were just really into tattoos, and that's how it all came to be. It's just bad influences, and whatever. It is what it is. What's funny is that like when you have tattoos and you have kids that like are grow up with you with tattoos, is like the one thing that's kind of weird is that my kids haven't even really like note their my oldest is 8, right, and then my middle is 5, and then the youngest is 3. So the middle, my son, who's like an artist, like he's an artist. He gets it from my grandfather on my mom's side, who's like an amazing artist. Here, I'll show you. This is like one of the paintings that he did here. So that's an actual painting that he did. So um, my son is taking this on like he's an artist, and he's starting to kind of like he'll notice my tattoos, like why do you, all of a sudden like one of my kids 6 7 years into their life, they're like, why do you have this thing, on you? But it's funny is like they just notice it forever. It's like they never put it together, and it's like all of a sudden like around 6 7 8 years old, somewhere like that, they start becoming like they start observing those sort of things. But it's really strange that for like years and years they never mentioned the fact that dad has drawings all over his body. So I always thought that was kind of weird. They just grew up with it. They just figured it was part of my body. They didn't realize that it was like just, I don't know. So here in South Africa, okay, admin says here in South Africa, We are part of a big prepping community called SBB Pseudolanders. I've heard of it. I've heard of you. Pseudolanders, burger like Besker Ming. That's a tough one. Should things go south, we are thoroughly prepared. Well, that's good that you guys are at least able to organize, as a group and come together like that. If Because that's like a thing here. Like usually governments try, go to great measures to try to keep people from, especially people like us, from ever organizing and becoming a group. They When they see that happening, they come in very quickly to try to break that up or infiltrate it and destroy it some way. Uh, so that's good. I'm glad to hear that you have a group there and you guys are prepared and taking care of each other. Because that's what it's all about. Is community is huge. It's like the most important thing that you can have going for yourself as a prepper. Midget preparedness says state. Okay, the state of Georgia. Gotcha. Mike is outdoors on your left arm. What, this one? This whole one? I don't know. How much was it? Probably $2,000 or more. Sean Romero at Round, are you guys safe from that crazy party in SA? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what's going on in South Africa. You should educate yourselves on it because it's probably something that's going to happen here at some point for sure. As we become more, as we become less homogenous, shall we say, we become more and more, what's the word, like polarized, and the word I'm looking for is just totally escaping me, but I'll remember it later. But as we become more like polarized as a country, we're becoming separate. We're going into like these different groups of people based on certain feature, uh, physical features, shall we say. What ends up happening is people become tribalistic. Is just part of the deal. We already see it happening. Um, and there's really just like one group hasn't in this country hasn't caught on to that yet, for obvious reasons. Just a lot of pressure not to. So, but that is what's happening. And so you look at South Africa, what's going on there, and basically what's happening is that people are just uh, attacking each other because they are not of the same uh, genetic, shall we say. Okay. Oh, I missed some things here. Come on. Um, are you guys safe? Ugh. I wish I gotta keep like have a mouse on this thing. This computer is terrible. Um, are you guys safe for now? Yes. Unfortunately, things are falling apart quite fast due to political rhetoric. Yeah. I'm sure they probably tried that in ZA, but it's easier when friendlies all speak Afrikaans. Evening, everyone. Oh, Mr. Patriot says, good evening, everyone. Things seem to be heating up. Mr. Patriot, 2000 for a tattoo. Wild. Yeah, whatever. It's stupid. I already said it was dumb decision. High Desert Drew, lack of solidarity. Mika's Outdoors. Micah's. I'm going to just assume it's Micah's. I'm 14 and have a leg tattoo. It was 1,000. See, I'm not the only one. At least I didn't get them on my neck and on my face and on my hands, because that was like, by the time I started realizing, like, I don't think I want to do the tattoo thing anymore. That's pretty much like where me and all my friends were heading, and most of my friends just like got necked out, and then like their hands, everything, and like started going onto their face. And now that's the thing, is like these kids are just tattooing their face. So hey, at least I checked out of the stupid trend before that started happening. That would have been terrible. Yeah, man, and I think that the tattoo thing for sure is like deliberate. They're pushing that on like a certain demographic, shall we say, to just basically just ruin your life. You know what I mean? Like, especially if you tattoo. I mean, now it's pretty common. I mean, having a tattoo, it doesn't really like, that doesn't set me out. At least from like my generation and the younger generations, it's like the only people that don't have tattoos are maybe some of the baby boomers, and that's about it. So it's not, I don't really like stand out, but I still wish I didn't have it, just because it was like, this is the kind of the fact that it was like a trend that I gave into is just stupid. Because I'm not, I hate trends, and the fact that I gave into one is pretty lame. I gotta read here. You ever look up those sociology topics I was talking about the other day? High Desert Drew, mechanical versus organic solidarity. Me, I don't know if you're asking me that. Mr. Patriot, geez, parents sign off on that. Well, I did it when I was in my 20s, so. Homestead Family Idaho, sorry for your loss. Like, I must have missed something on the chat here. Stan Grenfell, it's good to find you again. I try to get to the bottom of this chat here so I don't have to keep scrolling up and trying to find what I lost. Homestead Family Idaho is trying to correct me on the way I'm pronouncing it, but that doesn't help. I need audio. I need to hear it. Just respelling it doesn't help. High Desert Drew, Gen X, no tats. Gen X has tats. I'm Gen X. Most of us got tats because we all fell for that. It was like the stupid Gen X was like the worst at tats, because that's like the Gen Xers was like it started with like Fred Durst from like Limp Bizkit and like Jesse James from that Monster show. It's just, that's where it started. That's all Gen X. High Desert Drew, yes, asking you. Nicholas Campbell, I'm 40, no piercings, no tattoos. Ran private security in Johannesburg, visited Cape Town often. Beautiful. Homestead Family Idaho. No, I spelled it wrong. Mr. Patriot, I'm 22 with no tattoos. LOL. I need to find a good artist. I'd like to keep the same one working on other people's work sucks. High Desert Drew, Gen X, no tats. Stay survived. Howdy, everyone. Mr. Patriot, Mika is is how it's pronounced. Is it my ka? Me. If it's Mika, you were trying to pronounce it or spell it the way it's pronounced, it would be M-E ka, like the ka I get. That's funny. Midget preparedness, biker, too many tats. Yeah, I have a lot more than just what's on my arms. Uh, Micah. LOL, my bad. Micah. Okay, that's what I thought. Because I know a Mika, it's a female, but she spells it Mika. I knew a Micah, so I figure I just whatever. You never know. The way people spell names and pronounce names is so all over the place. Micah, like in the Bible. Micah's. So now I know Micah's outdoors. My coup. My coup? Micah's outdoors. Yes, like the Bible. Okay, Micah. I knew this kid. I went to high school with named Micah, and he had like a really bad drinking problem, like when we were in high school. And this is funny. Well, I won't even tell you the story. It's bad, but anyways, suffice to say, he had like a really bad night at a party once, and some like, oh, where they usually like shave your eyebrows where you're passed out. Well, that was like the least of his issues when he passed out. So um, he swore off drinking after that. And I remember his dad actually was said something. His dad was like, "If you never drink again, I'll buy you a brand new bass boat." And he was like, "Okay," and that did it. And then he quit drinking, and we never saw him again. And it's funny because I remember that was like my first experience with people who went sober. Is the one thing I knew about people who quit drinking is they just disappeared. So it was always kind of fascinating, like what happened to them. Well, the first thing that you got to do when you quit drinking is like stop hanging out with losers, like I was. So anyways, I haven't seen him since to this day. So I guess he got his bass boat and just went fishing. Midget Preparedness says, "Proud of you all. Keep prepping. Mr. Patriot. Super glue on the eyelids." Not sure what that means. Admin, Sean Romero, admin, just back got you. Take care in South Africa. There's kind of hard to read because there's this like weird heart emoji that's like in front of everything, all the words. All right, well, let me know if there's anything else you guys want to talk about in the chats. If I had a bass boat, Mr. Patriot says, if I had a bass boat, I'd be drinking on the boat. Yeah, seriously, it's like that's I think that's like actually how I tried to quit drinking the first time when I was like trying to quit. I think I bought a boat, but it wasn't a bass boat. It was just a boat that I was going to fix up. And that was like my first attempt to try to like not drink is I bought a boat that I had to fix up. And I was like, maybe this will just like preoccupy me with trying to work on this boat. And then it will distract me and I won't want to drink. But that didn't work. I just ended up drinking in the boat that wasn't even in the water. It was just in the trailer. Mr. Patriot heard some stories from the older crowd of what they would do when people pass out and super glue one of them. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah, I never had anything like terrible to happen to me. I had some people draw on me with like permanent markers. That was always fun. I had a friend who had got his eyebrows shaved, and his mom, and like the punishment his parents like because he was like, don't let me go to school like this, and his parents were like, nope, you're going to school, and his mom drew his eyebrows in, which just made it even worse. That was hilarious. But no, this kid, this one kid that got passed out, we were just so cruel to each other back in high school. Like, God, guys, like, it was like no real friends. Like, that's the other thing is like, you look back, like, when you're doing all that stuff, is like, there was just no, you had no real friends. People were so terrible to each other when they be drinking. But I'm debating on whether I should even tell you what happened to this poor kid, but I don't think it's it's appropriate. Yeah, it's good. A lot of people didn't drink in a lot of this younger generations that are coming up. I'm like my nephew is he the Gen Z, the Zoomers? I think he's a Zoomer. And yeah, there wasn't a lot of drinking, thankfully, but there were a lot of opiates. I mean, the drugs that you guys, like the younger generations, are contending with are like the opiates. And I know this firsthand because I ran a drug and alcohol treatment for young people for like 7 years, about 17 years ago or more. And I was like dumbfounded at the amount of young people who were trying to kick Oxycontin. I mean, and kids from like good homes, like young guys from good homes, and they were battling with like some of the most hardcore drugs. It was like mind. But this is like, keep in mind, this is California, where it's just like, the mecca of degeneracy. And, growing up in California, like, you're an oddball if you don't drink and do drugs every day. Like, that was like our school, that's pretty much how it was. Like you were just a dork, like you're a nerd. Like, if you didn't drink and do drugs all the time, you were just out. So it was like total. Yeah, but the upside to that is I literally was like, by the time high school was over, like, I didn't want to drink anymore, and I pretty much quit drinking like a year or two out of high school. I stopped. Well, that's good that you found something to tell the story. That's good that you were into racing. I had some friends that were into, like, we drag racing, because we're this was I grew up next to Sears Point Raceway, and I think it was like Tuesday night we'd have Tuesday night drags, and they let everybody from all the different high schools come in and race each other, like drag race cars. And so I had some friends who had like some really nice Mustangs and stuff that we'd race, and that was a lot of fun. But unfortunately, I just hung out with. I ended up just gravitating to like the boozers. I had no money for booze. I was spending it all on car parts. That's good, man. Yep, it's good to hear. Hopefully my kids will, my kids will do the same. That's what I'm shooting for. Um, I mean, that's a good question. I don't even know. Like, looking back, I don't even know how I got my money, because my parents weren't giving me an allowance. So I don't even know how I was able to come up with the money for any of that stuff. But I was just really a drinker. Like, I mean, I would smoke pot and stuff from time to time, but that wasn't. I didn't really like it. I was, because it just I didn't really like the way it made me feel. Uh, but yeah, I quit drinking because the drinking just was crazy. It's like what it's just, I didn't like. Cause I just lose total control. I mean, and drinking's just it's so dangerous. It's such a dangerous thing that if you abuse it, it can be very dangerous. Remember, booze and cigarettes, Mr. Patriot. Remember, booze and cigarettes are better than meth. It can always be worse. Yeah, and that's the kind of thinking that probably like it's like there's no end to that. Hell yeah, smoke the devil's lettuce. Yeah, the wacky tobacco, as my priest would call it. When I go, me and my friends would go to CCD, and our priest would go, "Are you guys smoking that wacky tobacco?" Father Foley. Yeah, those were the days. Um, so that's good because I know so many young people, and like I think now I know a friend of mine's like his kid, like the thing is like psychedelics. I know like a lot of young people are getting into like psychedelics because Joe Rogan was like pushing all those psychedelics. And yeah, like that's the thing. I call that like the here there syndrome. It's like so long as you're like of that mindset where it's like, well, at least I'm not doing this. I mean, our society has become so degenerate that like if you just drink and smoke pot, like you're one of the good ones. Like there's no option of just not doing those things. It's just like, hey, I'm innocent. I'm keeping it clean and just sticking to just booze and weed. And that's because you have people who are like doing fentanyl and heroin every day. So yeah, compare the stand whatever. They're the marker has been set so low. I was going to say set so high, but the marker's been set so low that you can still be like in the gutter, but as long as you have somebody to look down to, then you're okay. But it's not a good philosophy to adopt. Just saying from my own experience, you know, give yourself better standards. Midget preparedness. First tour in Iraq, I passed out after 60 hours of hoofing it. Got my eyebrows shaved. Took 2 months to grow the crap back. Even the kids laughed at me. High Desert Drew keeps saying just the tip. Mr. Patriot Toby Keith has a song called Wacky Tobacco. Hmm. Yeah, I've heard some crazy boot camp stories. Where were you in boot camp? Oh, you said, oh, first tour in Iraq. Sorry. I was reading too many comments. Mr. Patriot says, I've done mushrooms. That's as far as I'll go. Never been interested in real drugs, not even real anymore. Major Preparedness says, I take vitamins, no alcohol, drugs, or weed. Um, yeah, that's good. I'll tell you right now, I mean, like, and especially if you're doing that stuff at a young age, it screws you up forever. Like, and that's the thing is like, especially like the marijuana now. I mean, you start like that's the thing that's so dangerous is they started introducing a lot of these like just drugs and alcohol. I mean, just pot in itself. A lot of people say it's harmless. It's not harmless. If you start smoking pot when you're like young, like when you're just just hit puberty, which is like when a lot of kids start smoking pot, like 10, 11, 12. I know, I mean, believe it or not, that's when kids, like when I was going to school, when we started, marijuana started entering the scene, like when we were in junior high. And and alcohol. And you start smoking pot, especially if you're doing it like every day, and you're in your mind is in this like one of the most crucial developmental stages. And if you start injecting like mind altering substances while right in the process, like the peak process of your mind trying to like learn how to cope with things and your emotions. You know, you're learning how to cope with your emotions, and you're going through like puberty and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden you introduced all these like major mind altering chemicals. It's going to like set that stuff off, and it's going to screw you up because it's going to deny you this this part of your what's the word, it's going to deny you this part, this critical part of your development, your neurodevelopment, and all your social development. You get denied of that, like the proper process of that, and you never recover from it because you don't get to go through that phase again. It's not like, oh, I quit drugs when I was, my late 20s, and then I was able to start back, when I was a prepubescent teenager, and then re-go through all that thing. It's like, no, it's done. Like the things that you were supposed to go through then just didn't get done, and now you're going to go through the rest of your life um, without that, and it leads to depression, it leads to anxiety, and it's like a big part of the reason why there's so many people on antidepressants now, in my opinion. Paris Island. Oh, well, thank you for your service. Yeah, I just heard a crazy story. I had one of my really good friends was in Iraq. He started out in the Marine Corps, got kicked out, and then re-enlisted in the Army. He's going to be listening to this uh, live stream, so won't go into too much detail, but he had a lot of stories that were just totally uncombat related. It's just a lot. I'm like, man, there's a lot of drinking and partying going on in the Middle East. I was like shocked. And the fact that they supplied soldiers with so much alcohol. It's like, the hell is that all about? I mean, they were literally like soldiers that were like just stationed in, like, they were just stationing, like putting soldiers uh in like aircraft hangars and just giving them a ton of alcohol, and that's pretty much all they did was just hung out in some aircraft hangar way out in the middle of the desert, just drinking beer all day for years. Mr. Patriot, he didn't eat enough Crayola crayons. Huh. Are you just trying to get me to say crazy things? Because if you know anything about me, I'm just gonna read whatever you put up on this teleprompter. So be careful. Um, we're down to 9 viewers. That's not a good sign. Um, so I don't know. I'm actually having a lot of fun. So whatever. Probably gonna close it out here pretty soon. What time is it? Does anybody know what time it is? Doesn't say on any of my ancient uh, equipment here. 11. I'm loving this live stream. You are? That's crazy. I know, it doesn't really feel like a prepping live stream, does it? Yeah, I don't. Yep. Mr. Patriot, 1109. I don't know why the feeds are coming in so slow. I wonder if there's some type of like, there's obviously some delay on the chat log here on my end. High Desert Drew says, I've been busy with work. Y'all helped me stay up while driving home the other night. Oh yeah, there was somebody else. It was like a lady that was driving, and she was like, this live stream is keeping me going." So I was like, "All right, well that's cool." I actually would have kept going with that live stream, except I had to pee so bad because I drank like 4 waters and like 2 coffees. But this time I thought ahead. I did my bathroom break before. Bluefoot Homestead says, 50 years old and still no tats. Well, good. One of the things I kind of regret tattoos, and somebody informed me like way later on, and this is somebody who was tattooed, is they said that the ink is like really toxic for your blood and it never stops. Like the ink that's in your arms, like it never stops. Um, like your body never stops digesting it. So it's like this never ending stream of chemical that's like going from your skin into your body. So just based on that alone, I wouldn't have done it. And I always say to young people, I'll tell you right now, like when you're young and whatever, I mean, we've all been there. Obviously, some people have more sense to do stupid things when they're young. I unfortunately was not of very good wit and sense when I was younger. I was just very spontaneous and impulsive, and everything I did was just, you know, on the whim. And people would say to me all the time, like, "What do what are you gonna do when you get older? Like, how are you gonna feel about your tattoos when you're all old?" And I was like, and my thinking back then was like, "Well, when I'm old, who cares what I look like? I'm gonna be an old, wrinkly man. Like, who cares what I look like, anyways? If I have tattoos, And but the fact is that you spend, the majority of your life as a human, like you spend as an adult. Like your youth is a very small period of your life, and you got to be smart about it. It's like that saying that the youth is wasted on the young, as they say, and it's true. So don't squander it. I remember I had my vice principal. It was like the one time in high school where I think somebody was able to get through to me, and they weren't even speaking to me directly. It was actually something that my vice principal said during like a rally. It was like our senior year, and he said a lot. He had like a whole speech, but one of the things that just really stood out for me was he said, "You get one shot." I mean, I forget exactly what he said, but basically he said, "You have one shot. Like, you don't get to redo your youth. You don't get to redo high school. And you're here to learn. Like, you're here for a reason. Like, you're here, and like whatever you do here is going to echo for the rest of your life. So like get it right, because there's not a sec you don't in other words, like, you don't get a second chance at high school. Like, people say you get your G, but you really don't. I mean, you don't get a second chance at being young. And there's only certain things that you can do when you're young. And yeah, it's easy, when you're young, it's like I said, I mean, you're impulsive and you're having fun and you're dating, and it's just crazy and fast paced, and it's easy to kind of get distracted and want to just, get wild, go wild. At least it was for me. But you know, think twice about it, because you don't want to spend the rest of your life regretting. And that's what I did. I spent a long time in regret. Now, that's not to say that you can't, at some point, like, have your moment of clarity and turn things around. But I'm just saying, like, it's so much easier if you don't, you do that stuff. But I didn't get things together. And even when I quit drinking and all that, like, I still was making like I said, I mean, the tattoos didn't even start until after I quit drinking. And so it was just a lot of, stupidity, stuff like that. But a lot of it had to do with, just the way, just kind of the way I was raised, and like really the environment that I grew up in with my school and coaching, stuff like that. Just very, and not to say that I'm blaming others, but obviously when you're young, like the adults in your life obviously play a major role in how how you develop. And I just grew up at a time like the baby boomers were just very, very, very permissive people. They were very permissive parents, very it was just a very, whatever, let them learn the hard way. That was like their thinking. Um, and there wasn't a lot, there wasn't really much discipline at all. It was kind of like, well, if you want discipline, then come ask me for it. It was like, instead of just asserting discipline and making certain that you didn't go out and do those things, they were just kind of like left it up to us. It was like this weird philosophy of like, we'll just leave it up to the kids to whether or not they want to be mature or childish. It's their decision. I don't think that was a very good strategy, because when you're young, you're like, okay, well then I guess I'll just go party, you know. And then it was kind of like, and a lot of kids interpret it as like, well, I guess you just don't care about me. And so there was, you develop bad self esteem and all kinds of things. So, um, High Desert Drew, you quit out when I was 10 minutes from home. Mr. Patriot, I mean, we could talk about stuff going on in the world. Midget preparedness, I wouldn't get ink if I could go back in time. That's good. I think we've like kind of we've beat this topic up. Although I will say the Zoomers and like with this Gen X generation, you guys all fall. I mean, they're way, like I said, it's like the tattoo culture in that generation is way, way bad because of all these like different, and then the music. You guys are all just listening to rap, and everybody's tattooing their face and doing psychedelics. So hopefully, I'm glad. I would just be terrified if I was a parent. I mean, and like had my kids in public school when all this crazy stuff was going on. But the face tats, that's just terrible. I mean, we High Desert Drew, there were two paths when Gen X was growing up: nihilism or Ubermensch. Most of us didn't know Ubermensch was an option. I'm not sure what that. It sounds familiar. Obviously, I know what nihilism is, but remind me. Uh, Midget preparedness. You guys be safe. I'm home. Right on, buddy. Thanks for thanks for hanging out. What does that say? Rappers looking like the desks in detention. High Desert Drew. Neat Nietzsche. Yeah. Well, I mean, I could talk a lot about, yeah, my generation. I don't know. There's not a whole lot to say. I will say, like most of them, like most of the people I went to school with, that all, were in trouble, like drinking, doing drugs. Almost all of them pulled out of it and turned their lives around and got back on the right track, but but they still sacrificed a lot. A lot of them, it took them a long time. Like for me, for instance, I mean, like I said, it's like I quit pretty early on, but obviously I shouldn't have been doing it at all. I should have been studying. Shouldn't have been partying, um, and like abusing, uh, substances. I should have been studying and stuff like that. But there's just a lot of uh, bad mentors, like bad teachers, terrible, terrible, terrible teachers. There was a lot of times I wanted to, like, after I kind of turned my life around, and I was like really tempted to want to go back to my school and tell those a lot of those teachers, even though they were long gone, like how awful it was, like the way they went about doing things. They should never have been in the business. They were just there for money. They didn't care about how the kids turned out. And then also just go back and try to like communicate with a lot of those kids and just like don't let, because a lot of the thinking is just a lot of the teaching methods that are practiced, especially in the public school system, just are so destructive to kids. Like if you have a high intelligence, because most of the teachers are just very low, like intelligence, very mediocre intelligence at best. You're not dealing with smart people. Most of them just have, they want to, most teachers just go into teaching because they want to be able to talk. Um, they want to surround themselves with children, like ignorant children, so that they can preach to them and have people like look at them like people. They want to be surrounded by people who don't know any better. It makes them feel safe, and that a lot of teachers go into that, into teaching for that reason. They might not be aware of it, but that's why they want to surround themselves with, um, just naive people that they can say anything to and they'll eat it up. And so there's just a lot of bad methods. And so you have like maybe a high intelligent kid comes along that requires like a different way of learning things. If the teacher isn't intelligent enough to identify that or teach that child, they just will write that child off as like, oh, he has a learning disability because they couldn't figure out how to teach him. So then it's not, can't be my problem. You know, I'm the teacher. I know everything. So if they're not learning what I'm putting out here, it must be their problem, not my teaching method. So you end up with a lot of really high intelligent kids that just get thrown out. Midget Preparedness says, thank you, my friend. Great show. Nice to de-stress from listening to all the destruction going on in the world right now. High Desert Drew says they want power. The teachers, yeah. There was a radio guy I used to listen to back in the Bay who was I think he started out as a high school teacher, and that was like his assessment of it. And it made a lot of sense. I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, but it's sad. I mean, but I will say, like I said, it's like a lot of my friends that just, were, did a lot of stupid stuff in high school, drank and did a lot of drugs. Yeah, it was Michael Savage. I'd go back and forth on him. Yeah. His real name is Michael Weiner. Yeah, he's funny. Yeah, he's so crazy. He's crazy. He's like all over the place. Like he's just all over the map on his views. He was like one of those. He was one of those radio guys that would like. He'd just start thrashing on his own listeners. Like he was a conservative talk show host, but then he would like thrash. He would thrash like he'd thrash conservatives all the time. And conservatives would hate him, and I'm like, well, whatever. He's probably just gets so bored. I'd imagine. I mean, imagine doing a radio show every single day. You just have to come up with new material all day to entertain the same group of people. It would just get that. It would get exhausting. You would at some point you'd want to just like do it about like take things another direction. It'd be so hard to just keep pushing the same narrative every day, even if you believed in it. Yeah, well, the thing about conservatism is that it's not even conservative. That's the thing. Those guys are pretty much support everything that the left supports. I mean, you listen to like mainstream conservatives today. I mean, they're pretty much like what hardcore leftists were like 7 years ago. I mean, it shot people forget like when Obama's presidency started, he was like that guy. He was like, you know, marriages between one man and one woman. That was in 20. What was it? 2000. When did he run in 2009? Yeah, so 2008, 2009. Obama was like, nope, marriage is between one man and woman. Could you imagine? And that was the Democrat, the radical, that was the radical Democrat at that time. And that's, what is that, 10, whatever, 13 years ago or whatever? I don't know, my math is terrible. What New Year is. And, the radical Democrat is saying marriage is between one man and woman. Yeah, how times have changed. Some are bad. 2008, yep. That was a hell of a time. Yeah, this is pretty much like when I started waking up, like majorly waking up. But like I've said in shows before, I've always kind of been like, there was never really, I mean, when I was growing up, there was really no such thing as preppers. I don't even think that word even existed. I don't even know when that word even started. I would say that my that the first time I had ever heard of people prepping was in 2000 or 1999, I should say, because remember the first scare and the first time I'd ever even like ran into the idea of somebody like preparing and stockpiling stuff was in 2009, and they were preparing for uh what was it, the what do they call it, the where everybody thought that the computer systems were going to crash because everything was going to switch over to the year 2000, and none of the computer systems. Y2K. Yeah, Y2K. Um, Crazy. Yeah, Y2K was the first like crazy scare we had in 99 going into 2000, and people thought that like there was going to be some glitch because none of the computer systems had accounted for this like year, and that they thought that the computer systems would just crash and reset. And Y2K was awesome, man. I had an AK 15 mags and 2,000 rounds of ammo with a bunch of food and a huge party. I'm starting to wonder if I know who you are, High Desert Drew, because I knew a guy that had an insane stockpile for Y2K. Like, make this just look like, I mean, a tiny little spot in a closet. Like, insane. And I didn't know until like years and years after. And because I knew this guy forever, he was friends with my dad. And one day he was sifting through his phone because he was like, "Yeah, I'm selling some guns. Like, you interested?" And whatever. I don't even. Maybe he didn't offer me, but anyways, he was selling. He had like a bunch of guns. I was like, "What? Really?" I didn't even think he was into guns. And he starts showing me on his phone like what he's listing, for sale. Legally, of course, this sounds bad, but yeah, he was like listing them on Gun Trader or whatever. And he's going through this list, and I couldn't, like, I was in shock. It was like dozens and dozens and dozens of different firearms. And I was like, "You have all that?" Like that, I had no idea. And he's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "I was preparing like for Y2K, and I guess he had like rented this like storage locker somewhere, and this was like in California. He rented a storage locker somewhere on Angel Island, which is near San Francisco, Bay Area, and he had like, God, I'm reluctant to even say, but he had, let's just say he had 50-gallon drums full of things. He was stockpiling stuff per 50-gallon drum. 50-gallon drums of said items of things. So whereas like we might keep these things in cans, he was keeping them in 50-gallon drums because keep in mind this was like two when like you could probably get like 1,000 rounds for like $75. It was like nothing back then. High Desert Drew says survivalists preppers are a Johnny come lately. Yeah, it was. It started out as survivalists. Yeah, like it was like when everybody was like reading Soldier of Fortune magazine. I was reading Soldier of Fortune. I was buying Soldier of Fortune magazines when I was 11 years old, just to put things into perspective. How long I've been kind of into this. Um, I was 7 and knew he was bad. Who? Oh, Obama. Sorry, kind of. Y2K was awesome, man. I had an. Okay, yeah, I already read all that. Nah, my stuff was just enough to fill up the Jeep. Preppers were just regular people up to around 50 years ago. I'm a SoCal guy. Says, hi, Desert Drew. Gosh, how many comments did I miss? No. Hi, Desert Drew. Food, gas, beans, rice, etc. That's what happens when you get into a serious collection. Yeah. I think I paid 95,000. What? I think I paid 95K for 762 by 39. That doesn't make sense. You mean that you paid $95 for an AK? Is that what you meant to say? I don't know what you mean. Oh, you paid $95 for 1,000 rounds. Okay, now I see. Gotcha. I'd be like Dale from King of the Hill with 50 gallons of Mountain Dew, Mr. Patriot. High Desert Drew, $95. Okay. Yeah, ammo, people don't even know how cheap it was. Do you remember it was funny? And I always say this too. Like, you want to know, like, a lot of people were thinking, like, obviously the movies back in the 80s that kind of like got a lot of guys into like survivalism was obviously Rambo was one, Commando. That was like back in the 80s. Like, those were the movies. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone were like the two biggest actors, and um, yeah, with Rambo and then Commando and then Red Dawn came out. And that was like the most infamous or the most famous, movie for preppers. It's the one that's like most referenced. But the one movie that isn't referenced, that's like a total prepper movie, but it's kind of like a mock. They mock preppers. But at the time when I was watching, I was like 10 years old when this movie came out. Was The Survivors with Robin Williams and what's his face? Oh gosh, I always forget that name. The guy Jerry Mathau. Jerry Mathau. I think that's it. But that's a good movie. If none of you have ever seen The Survivors, that's a really good movie. And I was like really into it. Like the prepping part is basically not to go through the whole movie, but the main character played by Robin Williams becomes like he has this experience where he has to defend himself during this armed robbery with a firearm, and he's never used a firearm, and it totally like changes his whole life, and he just becomes this like total firearm like fanatic enthusiast. And so he goes and he ends up spending all of his money, like quits his job and spends all of his money on like AKs and all this survival stuff, and then he gets a cabin way up in the mountains, and he like becomes part of this militia group. And there's like these scenes in the cabin. It was like so cool. I remember thinking like, "Wow, that looks like a lot of fun," because they're like way up in the mountains of Vermont. That's where the I don't know if that's where the actual movie was filmed, but that's where it was in the movie, was in Vermont. And so they're up in the mountains in Vermont, and he's part of this group where there's like all these guys preparing for the end of the world, and they're just training all the time. And it's like the whole militia is run by this like sleazy salesman, whatever. And anyways, the end of the movie, they end up kind of mocking preppers. But there's like this scene in the movie where he's like in his cabin and he has all this stuff, and he had 5 gallon buckets. So they must have like actually, to make that movie, like actually engaged with some real life preppers, because where would they have come up with the 5 gallon buckets? But he goes in his cabin and he's got 5 gallon buckets full of like freeze dried food everywhere, and he's got like all of his guns hanging from the mantle. But it was like a really cool cabin. I'm like, man, that looks like a that actually looks kind of cool. But that kind of got it started for me, like the whole prepping thing, and where I started kind of moving in that direction. Mr. Patriot says, even 4 years ago at Walmart, I was. Hold on. What is this? I wish I could get this like emoji out of the way. There's this big heart emoji that's sitting right in the way of these chats, and it's blocking out the words. But Mr. Patriot says, even 4 years ago at Walmart, I was something. It was what, $300 for 150 Winchester 62 grain. $30? I don't know. Sorry, the emoji's blocking it out. Stupid heart emojis right in the way. Can't get rid of it. Yeah. Well, I still, I remember like, I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was like the first time we had ammo shortages. It was worse than I've ever seen it since. Close, I think, because I remember this was like in 2011. It was right when like, oh, because that's when things started for me. It was when Obama was getting reelected to his second term. Was that right? 2012? Yeah, from 11 to 12, going into his second term, and things were really bad in our country. I mean, that was like when things really, I mean, in my opinion, things have always been getting bad, but the kickoff when it really seemed like it started going into like hyper speed into like this communist hellscape that we're going into, it really started in 2001 after 9/11. That's when everything changed. And you could just sense, I mean, if I was going to look back, like that was like, if ever there was like a kickoff to something, that was the kickoff. And because what it was the kickoff into all of the wars in the Middle East. It was because the neocons wanted those wars. They had been looking for a reason to go and invade Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, whatever. It was like a series of states because they wanted to go in and balkanize all those regions so that they were no longer a threat to a certain state that I shall not mention. And anyways, they were looking for a reason to go in there, and that's when 9/11 just, conveniently happened and allowed them to pursue this goal, this dream of theirs forever. It's funny how that always happens, that all of these events just also happen to be like, all these tragic events happen to be these huge wins, that just give the people in control everything they want. It's like as if they're planned out or something. But that was like the kickoff to whatever what we're in right now. Mr. Patriot says, I'm 22, so watching the world's going to sheet. So I'm 22, so watching the world going to shit. My whole life did it for me. My whole life did it for me, and my family is pretty outdoorsy, hunting, fishing, etc. Hi, Desert Drew. I remember ammo shortages back when Bill Clinton became president. Yeah, that was before me because when Bill Clinton became president, I know that there was like crazy stuff going on in our country. I mean, that's when Ruby Ridge happened. That's when Waco happened. That's when what was the other one? And then the thing that was like the response to that kind of ended it. Whatever it was, the Oklahoma City thing. Uh, but yeah, that was a crazy time, and I remember Metallica, and I didn't even know this because I was in high school. I was like, that was 94, 95, 93, 94, 95 when all that crazy stuff was happening. And like the ATF was just going berserk, like under Janet Reno. And at Metallica, like their Black album was like the number one album, and there was a picture. You look at that album, and it was the Gadsden flag. It was the "Don't Tread on Me" snake, and I had no idea that. And they had that song "Don't Tread on Me," and that whole album was like a response. It was a few songs was a response to all that stuff was going on because people don't realize that James Hetfield was like totally one of us, and he grew up, or he didn't grow up, but no, he lived in the town that I grew up in. So we would see James Hetfield, the lead singer of Metallica, like all the time. And he was a big time drinker, and so he'd always drink at this one bar and then try to walk home, and he'd pass. It was a Taco Bell on the way home from the bar, and he'd pass out. So you'd see James Hetfield passed out at the Taco Bell uh, um, at Taco Bell at one of the tables, like at night, and we get like our autographs from him all drunk. It was like every single one of my friends, like we all had autographs from James Hetfield that was just scribbled because we'd always be getting autographs from him when he was just tanked. And and then right before I actually left to move here, I ran into James Hetfield like one on one, and it was like most surreal experience of my life. And like I sat down, I met him, shook his hand. We were just in front of this coffee shop near where I live, and he sat down at the table next to me, and he was like talking about my tattoos because he was just getting into tattoo work, and I think he either had one like mine or he was like, I really like that. And then he ended up getting one that looked a lot like the one I have. But him and I just sat and like one on one, like he's like from here to here, because it's just a little tiny round coffee table in between us. And I just sat there and had like a 10-minute conversation with James Hetfield. It was insane. It was totally insane. I was like doing everything in my power to like keep my cool and just play it off like I'm not gonna hyperventilate, because it was such a weird thing to be talking to somebody so famous so like intimately, right there in front of your face. So that was pretty cool. You know, I ran into Woody Harrelson once, like at the beach. He was on mushrooms, and I talked to him for a little while. That was kind of funny. And that's about it. I mean, I saw famous people here and there, but never, never with that kind of a one-on-one interaction. But yeah, but those ammo shortages back then in 2011 or whatever, I remember waiting in lines and when in front of, because the only place like we could get ammo, I think where I was at the Big Five Sporting Goods, and they were rationing it out. You could only get like two boxes, like so like 40 rounds at a time, and you had to get there super early in the morning because it'd be sold out. It'd be sold out like within less than an hour. Mr. Patriots. Okay, so I'm gonna try to read this. I remember when ammo shortages back when Bill Clinton became president. High Desert Drew. I was like 15. um, yeah, I wasn't much older than you. I think I was 19 when all that was happening, or 18. Mr. Patriot wasn't even thought of in the 90s. LOL. Mr. Patriot. Remember Ruby Ridge? Yes. That's awesome. Talking to legend. Oh yeah, James Hetfield. Yeah, old man mafia buying up all the 22 long rifle ammo. Um, yeah, people don't realize. People think of like Idaho as like being like this predominantly diehard, red state, but and it is now, but it did not be like Idaho was like a blue state up until after that. It took, like, people don't realize it was Ruby Ridge is what turned Idaho from blue to red, because once people started realizing that this, like, because of that, it ended up becoming like this whatchamacallit, like a beacon, for preppers after that. And I'm trying to think. So then after that happened, then what's his face? The other thing that ended up putting on a map was who was the cop that was in the OJ? He was the cop that was he was the lead detective on the OJ Simpson trial. Mark Firmer. Anyways, he ended up moving to Sandpoint, and then people were like, "Oh," and then they just started putting together. I guess this is where all the hardcore white supremacists move, and then it got its reputation as being this white supremacist state, right? And Bouncy Boy, High Desert Drew as Klaus Schwab. Is that what you're trying to say? Clausewitz might say the Schwerpunk. Um, yeah, and then after that, it kind of got this reputation, and then it became a red state. Something happened in Oregon. I can't remember his name though. Hmm. You mean like a standoff? You remember? You mean the that standoff that they had? Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I will say it's like yeah, the Bundys. Yeah. Yeah, I know. So there was like people that were up in North Idaho that got involved in that and got caught up, like and ended up doing like time. They got like kind of the same route, um, where they got, this is like people that went through all the stuff that a lot of the J6 people ended up going through, where they're just put in prison without due process, just all sorts of terrible abuses that are put upon them through the legal system. Um, I had to get a water. Yeah, there was stuff in Oregon though, I thought too. Yeah, you got to stay away from that stuff. There was a guy who wrote the book. The guy who wrote the book, Strategic Relocation. His name's Joel Skousen. It's the one thing he said about Idaho. He's like, great place. I mean, demographically or geographically, demographically, geographically, it presents like a very unique situation where, especially in the far northern region, it presents a very unique geographic situation in the sense that it becomes very protected because of the you have the sawtooth mountains or whatever, and then there's the I always forget what the name of those mountains are. Oh, there's a mountain ridge, but anyways, it's the way that everything is aligned. It becomes a very ideal situation if you're trying to flee and circumvent yourself from sight. So if there's ever like a social breakdown, there's like just people kind of same thing with like the Appalachians. Why a lot of people have chosen that area. It's because of the the geography. Um, that it presents that makes it such a desirable place for people who are looking to get into a safe place if things go down. I won't go, and that's about as much as I'll say about it. But the one thing Joe Skousen did say, he's like, but keep in mind there are a lot of high power people who've already like take advantage of that, who are there now, and they're going to do whatever they can to retain their dominance in that region. And if that means like, you know, framing people to get them out that might be pose a threat to them, that's what they'll do. And so he said, for that reason, if you're going to go live up there, you got to keep a super low profile. And he was like, do not join groups. And that's like just one thing, you know, don't join prepper groups. Definitely don't join militias. It's way too risky. It's just not a good strategy. If you're looking to be prepared and like meet up with people and train, there's much better ways to go about doing it than joining militias. So a lot of people might disagree, but that's what I'll say. Just you're asking for trouble. Because if you're part of that group, and I'll just say that, if you're part of that group and somebody in that group does something stupid, you'll be swept up in it because you're part of that group. You're a member, so they see it as like part of like a conspiracy. And so even if something happens, you have nothing to do with it. They're like, it doesn't matter. Like you're signed up, so you know you're all part of it, and that's why it's not a good idea. So just like meet your neighbors, keep it, you know, train on your whatever. You want to learn how to like you know, your pistol or something. I mean, you can go to a firing range and read books or something. Uh, let's see. I've missed some comments, and I'm not going to try and go back to the top, but I'm going to start here. Let's see. Costco to the rescue. Oregon Mauer Wildlife Oregon Muir Wildlife Refuge near Burns. Great show. Admin, great show. See you on the next one. Cheers. I won't be part of any club that would have me as a member. Yeah. I wanted to make some kind of mag or whatever, but upset gray man, etc. But my friends have a lot of baggage and not a lot of stuff to bring to the table. Oh, not sure what that means. Mag, kind of mag. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to trust people. It's hard to find people to connect with. That's for damn sure. People are like very jaded, very nihilistic, very paranoid, very judgmental. It's difficult. People are just. I mean, I've made like some connections, just you know, like meet and greet, like gone out, like my wife's friends with somebody, and their husband comes along, and it's so awkward so much of the time. Like a lot of people just have no like social skills. I run into that more than anything, just like zero social skills. And I swear that is like, I think smoking too much pot does that. Like people who just smoke too much pot and they drink too much and they never developed social skills because they're just, the only time they ever socialize is when they're inebriated. And so then you hang out and they just don't know how to socialize sober. I run into that a lot. It's just annoying. Loyalty is good, but it's a two-way street sometimes. Yes. Bluefoot Homestead. Have a good night. Time to get to work. All right, buddy. Thanks for hanging out. Mr. Patriot Mutual Assistant Group. I don't know what that is. Mutual assistance group. High Desert Drew Night Bluefoot. Night Bluefoot. I'll be honest, man. Join up with some of the clubs out there. Elk, moose, etc. Huh. Yeah, there was a guy up when we lived in like further north Idaho. There was, dude, crazy stuff. But there was one guy I remember. He was part of the Freemasons. It was a Freemason. There was a lot of in this town. There was a lot of those old clubs like Kiwanis and Elks Club and everything. And they had a Freemasons club there, Freemasons Lounge, and he was like the leader of it. And he was like this young guy, and he would drive around. He would drive around in this like old Land Rover with like sniper rifles in the front seat of his car. He had like rifle mountains, and he'd like keep sniper rifles and like ARs like in the front seat. That guy was definitely like either he was in on it or like he was definitely on a watch list, like no doubt, or he was part of the watch group. I don't know, but I made sure to steer clear of that guy. Uh, High Desert Drew, yeah, they're social clubs, but they're full of motivated people who want to be there, and it's a normie activity. Well, that's good. Take over the local Rotary Club. Mr. Patriot, I know someone will help. Like one buddy is 30, 45 minutes away, but he's got an air pistol, but some food, etc. But my other buddy is closer, but family of four is hard to bring in and deal with. Yeah, we actually have a club here in our community. It's like a meeting hall, and they have different functions. People rent it out to like hold different events. We do like different bakes, sales. Like people get together and do like um, to sell stuff. So like Christmas, like ladies here will make wreaths and sell the wreaths and stuff like that. Or we do just I'm trying to remember what they are, but you can go and just sell if you're like a if you make stuff like a not a merchant, but I forget. But if you make stuff, you can go there. They do a couple events a year and sell your stuff locally, and that's actually a lot of fun. That's a good way if you can connect with something like that. You meet some good people that way too. It's a lot of fun. You get like you just rent like a booth and sell stuff. So, like one of the things that I sell are like these Minuteman medic kits, and like I sell them for like $10. Is just like a tourniquet in here and some like bandages and gloves, stuff like that. They're just disposable trauma kits, and I sell those and a bunch of other medical kits. I also like make you've seen the videos where I make like snares. I can make small game snares, fire steels. I make fire steels, fire starter. So like all that stuff, I just kind of do it on the side, and each year we have a sale, and I sell all that stuff, and it's a lot of fun. I don't make like a lot of money, obviously, but it's just kind of it's fun to do it. Mr. Patriot says it sucks. Yeah, no, like hunters are cool, but pretty dumb as well. Most people always say, "I'll just go hunting for food. I'll bug out with blanks and go to the woods." Yeah, that's like a lost cause. It's like try hunting something when there isn't like a crisis. You'd be lucky if you get something. I mean, I can't even imagine trying to like rely on hunting when everybody's out hunting. It'd be impossible. Mr. Patriot, the whole point there, go hang out with the hunters, and among the hunters, look for the 1 to 2 guys who are just like you. You just have to do that in a lot of places. Pretty soon got people. Mr. Patriot, like my family, friends, is a pretty big thing. One that always says something like that. Sorry, I tell you, the worst thing that's happened to me in the last 5 years is like my eyes going out. I didn't think my eyes would ever go out because I had like 20/20 vision forever. And then just all of a sudden, like in like a matter of like less than a year, I was wearing glasses. And then within 5 years, I just was worthless without glasses. Now I can't see anything. And now I'm just like barely see. I'm in that stage now where I've already upped the magnification twice and I'm having to go and up it again. My eyes are just failing quickly. It makes it really difficult, especially like to do anything that's YouTube related, because I'm constantly having to take my glasses off and put them on. And I wish I just didn't have to wear them because I just hate the look of these stupid cheap readers, but I have to have them on. Because I can't see anything without them. I don't know what age. Eventually, as soon as I'm of that age where I can go and get like laser corrective surgery, I'm gonna do it for sure. Or get contacts because wearing glasses is a pain. Mr. Pritchard says, "Yeah, you're right. I should try finding more people with common interests in my area. Awkward bringing it up, though. Like, cool now could be a marauder later on. The Idaho Prepper, can you CTL and us to increase the size of the font? Let me try. Actually, I don't even want to try because I'll end up screwing something up and then." You mean CTRL, control, and plus? Is that what you mean? I don't even... Where is the... Oh, here it is. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I don't know. This is like my wife's laptop that I'm reading my reading the comments on, and it's... Oh shoot! It just shut down. I knew that was going to happen. I was just pressed Control Plus. It just shut down the computer. It was too much for it. Dude, I need to go to a chiropractor. My neck is brutal. Whew. All right. Well, how many people are watching? Wow, I'm back to 11 people. Yeah, if you're just joining the live chat here, we've been on for probably at least 2 hours now, or more, maybe. It's back on. It came back on. I don't know. The screen just went blank, but it's back on now. But if you're just joining us here, just doing my 1 year anniversary show, we've gone over a lot of stuff from prepping to elections to censorship to James Hetfield to tattoos and drugs and alcohol and boomers. It's an exciting one. It's not your average prepping live show. I watch some of these prepping live shows, like some of these preppers out here. I watch their shows, and it's just like news, man. Like they're just talking about news. But I just can't be into that. I just don't fall like, and it's mainstream news. I mean, they go and they like source all their articles from like the Associated Press and like the Blaze and Fox. It's like, man, you're not going to be learning anything there, you know? I mean, if you're going to say anything worthwhile that's going to be like, a threat to the opposition, like they're going to censor you. So that should be like a pretty good heuristic. I'm surprised people haven't figured that out now. Like it's pretty safe to say like if you say something and it gets censored, you said something like true. Um you said something that actually like threatened the people who are like mean the thing, mean that are threatened by the truth. Like that's why they're banning it. They're not banning it because they're like really concerned with like the well-being of people's you know ears and sensitivities. They're banning it because it's like, ooh, that makes me look bad. I don't want people knowing that. Xers. Thanks, man. I'll try that. I'm a awkward fellow. I actually have to crash out. I have to go to court tomorrow morning. Uh-oh. Oh, scare tactics. Constantly, like, I get it, man. The world's bad. Yeah. I try to stay positive. I'm preparing because I want to live, not because it's getting bad. Yeah, I just prepare because it gives me a sense of like, just like, okay, I have insurance on my car. Like, if something, like, it's just a sense of security. Uh, really. You know, I would, and yeah, I would, if I didn't have it, I would feel secure. I lived a life without this stuff, and then I learned that, like, you can find yourself in a situation where you don't have food. Like, I've been there, and that's why I do what I did, is from real life. Trying to avert reliving a situation that I've already went through. So you're a witness in a lawsuit. Interesting. Well, at least I thought maybe you were going to be like, you're the judge. You're a trial lawyer. Hi, Desert Drew. Good night. Good night. Mr. Patriot, I've saved so much money with all the food and gas I've bought. Yeah, you can. It's kind of a way to curb against inflation for sure. It's crazy. I heard, I didn't mention, I was going to mention this, but um, I guess Chicago is going to start allowing like illegal immigrants to become police officers. Have you guys heard this? Can you imagine being pulled over and like given a ticket by somebody who's here illegally? I mean, holy cow, talk about a slap to the face. Like, here you go, sir. You have to go to court, and just being, you got to go to court next week at this time, says the illegal. You can't make this stuff up. Like, I remember in high school, the first time hearing it was like that old story about how it was like a burglar who went into somebody's house to rob. It was like rob some old lady's house, and he fell through the ceiling and broke his leg, and then he sued her for the ceiling, and like one got the lawsuit. I remember hearing that story this like 25 years ago, and just being like, what, how is that possible? And now it's like that's just like an everyday thing. I mean, even cops are going to jail for upholding the law. They're getting sued by the criminals, and then they're the ones that go to jail. It was like some story I read where some guy, and this is, obviously this is stuff that always happens in like these tyrannical states, um but there was some guy who he was like a landlord, and some people like broke into his house, his rental house, and like started squatting, and he called the cops on the squatters to get him out of there, and they ended up arresting him for, like, I don't know, bothering these people who broke into his house and were living there, and he went to jail. What's crazy is that stuff is going to get worse. It's just going to become more and more mainstream. Yeah, man, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's like the people, the law-abiding people, the people who are trying to follow the law and play, you know what I mean, and play by the rules. Like if it gets to a point where playing by the rules ends up being, becoming this liability and just working against you, well, then what ends up happening? People just stop playing by the rules. You just have total civil, just total, the civilization just crumbles. Nah, I'm okay. High Desert Drew. Nah, I'm but a humble bullet miner. Mr. Patriot. Yeah, I've seen that. Imagine how much worse it's going to get there. LMAO. I think that's unconstitutional. Yeah. The Constitution is done. I mean, if nobody. It's like, what good? It's like the founding fathers said. It's like the Constitution is written for a moral, religious, and moral people, and you have neither. You have neither moral or and religious people upholding it, and you have neither moral and religious people at the on either end of it. And the reason, and it's true, a lot of people don't realize this, but like the reason why they say moral and religious is because the founding fathers understood that like morality is not subjective. Is that morality is not religious, then there's nothing that binds the morality. And so this Constitution was based on Christian morality, the Christian religion of morality. And without that, you can't just have morality, because then it just becomes subjective, and then once it's subjective, it can just be, uh, then it just goes with whatever flavor of the month. You know what I mean? You're just making up morality as you go along to see fit, and and before you know it, what's immoral becomes moral, and what's moral becomes immoral, and that's the world we're living in now. And that's, and essentially, I mean, not to oversimplify it, but that's pretty much how the devil works. The devil's main goal is to make sin seem normal and make doing what's right seem awkward and dumb and, stupid and useless. Does that not like sum up the world we live in, where it's like sin seems like the normal thing, and to be good and holy and righteous is what seems, it's like awkward, and you even try to bring up the fact like I'm living like a moral, and if somebody says like now, it's like, for instance, if some young guy in his late teens 20s says I'm celibate, I'm a virgin, I'm celibate, I'm saving myself for marriage, like he's a total weirdo. Everybody looks at him as a weirdo, and he's doing the right thing. He's being righteous and moral. But now we live in a world where that what's righteous and what's moral is looked at as weird and awkward, and then being just whereas somebody is like really promiscuous, and it's like, yeah, I've slept with like 20, 30 women, that's totally normal. Everybody high fives, and it's like nobody bats an eye. And that's where we're at now. Yeah, I've seen that. Imagine how much worse it's going to get there. I think, yeah, okay, we already read that. Oath breakers are eventually going to make us fight for rights. Hopefully not. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. People don't realize, I mean, the amount of people are willing to like sacrifice, make true sacrifices for their freedom and understand it's a very, very, very small percentage. Luckily, it doesn't really take very much, but even in the founding of this country, um, the people who actually like, I think in the founding of this country during the Revolutionary War, the people that actually like took up arms to defend their country, it's like what they say is like 3% of the population, and they said 20% supported, freedom, and they supported what you call it, the what's the word where supported the idea of getting away from the king of England and separating themselves and having their own, and becoming like their own, like a sovereign people under a sovereign nation. It was only 20% of the people actually supported that idea. It's so weird because most people, we just assume, like, as Americans, that like from the conception of this country, from the founding of this country, like we as Americans always like loved our freedom and fought for our freedom. It's like, no, 70% of the population, it was something like, I wish I remember the numbers, but it was like I think it was like, I know it was like 70% really couldn't care less. Like if you asked them, like 70% of the population just didn't care. They didn't care if they became sovereign, a sovereign people, and with freedom, or they just stayed under the rule of the king. And 20% wanted to, but even of that 20% of the people who wanted their freedom and sovereignty, only 3% were actually willing to do anything about it. Luckily enough, for us, that's 3% is all it took. But it was, and I don't quote me. I mean, this is probably like I'm probably hacking this piece of history, but I know it was something like that. The idea of our country, the people of this country always being this really monolithic group of people who were fighting for freedom is just that wasn't the case. And so, as so it is now, it's pretty much this. I think you could say the same thing. I bet you those numbers are pretty much the same, exact same as they are today, maybe a little less. I don't know. There's not many people, like most of the people here aren't even, they're just not of that stock. So there's some huge percentage of the population who's like foreign born. I mean, they're just not here. It's not in their uh, it's just not in their purview, shall we say. Like freedom just isn't really a big thing. They're here for the financial opportunities, and that's it. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. It's not looking good. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. The thing is that all too, it's like people stand up, people take stands all the time, just basic, not even like I'm not talking about like violence or anything like that. I'm just talking about like vocal stands. You take a vocal stand on something and look what happens to those people. They're just destroyed and like um just dragged through the mud and just persecuted. They're censored. They're banned from all platforms. They're thrown out of the financial system. just refused access to the financial system, and just left to hang out to dry. And they, and a lot of people, and then they just become like social pariahs, and not even their own friends and supporters will like stand next to them because they're like, whoa, don't want that to happen to me. This is just not worth it. I mean, nobody, but I think really the best thing we can do right now is just try to get the truth out there, and just try to get people to start waking up and just being more courageous to like say what needs to be said. Obviously, you got to play it smart. I can't, you know what I mean? You can't just say whatever you want, like, because you're beholden to the terms, right? Thankfully, there are some platforms where if somebody really wanted to go and say stuff, there are some alternative platforms where they allow you to do that. I honestly just don't do it because I'm not that good. I'm just not that articulate about those kind of things. I understand those things, but I'm just not. Just because I know things and I understand things, just doesn't automatically make me a good messenger for those sort of things. So there's people who are much more in tune with that stuff than I am, and can articulate that message a lot better than I can, and so I'll just let them do it. And it is true. You got to be careful. If you're gonna take on serious subject matter, you got to really know what you're saying. Um, uh, and know how to deliver it. One, to just be safe, but two, it's like you want to be a good representative of that message, and just not sound like a total idiot. So I wouldn't be able to sell that stuff. It's like the stuff that I can talk about is like bug out bags, prepping, stuff like that. I think I can translate that message fairly humbly and honestly, and I think I can articulate that message somewhat okay. And if I don't do it very well, oh well. It's not like I'm destroying or putting some bad stain on a huge movement. We're just talking about storing food here. We're just keeping it simple. So, but it's interesting stuff. I mean, I know that there's only so much I can do a live stream about food preservation and gardening. Eventually, these topics are gonna run off course at times. Um, but I don't know. I just like try to keep it to. I'll try to keep it to basic weird stuff like talking with James Hetfield at a coffee shop. So, yeah. I've seen too much like crazy. Like I've had too much heat on me just from living in Idaho alone. All right. Well, my computer's notifying me that it's going to restart due to an update outside of active hours. So I guess it's scheduled for some software update. So I think I better sign out before that happens, and then I just lose access here. So, anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I actually had a lot of fun. Hopefully, this was kind of entertaining. For those of you, I appreciate everybody who made it out today. I'm not going to go through the list, but I know the kind of the main two people here were High Desert Drew and Mr. Patriot. Thanks for kind of keeping the conversation flowing. I really appreciate it. And for everyone who's come out and made this channel possible and celebrating my 1 year anniversary, I'm very humbled and grateful to all of you who supported my channel. And I'm still going to do a live stream Saturday night, I think. And I'm going to be putting a video out on this Get Home bag here pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. And so if you haven't done so, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified about these live streams. So because sometimes I do them I usually do them on Saturday nights, but sometimes I'll just do one spontaneously just to do one. So again, hope you enjoyed the show. And with that said, just remember, stay prepared.